This is a reading from the Curé of Ars by Father Bartholomew O'Brien. The Curé of Ars, patron saint of parish priests. The good shepherd giveth his life for his sheep. John chapter 10, verse 11. A lithography portrait of the Curé of Ars, Saint John Vianney, made in 1845 by the printer Jules Meunier, when the Curé would have been 59 years old. The Curé of Ars, patron saint of parish priests, by Father Bartholomew J. O'Brien. He shall feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather together the lambs with his arm, and shall take them up in his bosom, and he himself shall carry them that are with young. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 11. Nihil obstat Francis R. Davis, censor deputatus. Imprimatur James E. Kearney, Bishop of Rochester, August the 9th, 1956. The feast of Saint Jean-Marie Vianney. The nihil obstat and imprimatur are official declarations that a book or pamphlet is free of doctrinal or moral error. No implication is contained therein that those who have granted the nihil obstat and imprimatur agree with the contents, opinions, or statements expressed. Dedicated to Our Lady of Ars, of whom the Curé said, "No grace comes from heaven without passing through her hands." Decree of Pope Pius XI. We are asked by the Bishop of Belley, in whose diocese Ars is located, and in the name of almost 400 archbishops and bishops from all parts of the world, to designate Saint John Baptiste Vianney as heavenly patron of those who have the care of souls in every location worldwide. Nothing seems more appropriate than to highlight to the parish priests of the world the example of this holy man, whom the Church highly praises as outstanding in fulfilling the parochial ministry. Considering the requests of so many bishops and their continued petitions in this year of our 50th priestly ordination anniversary, we think it well to grant their request. Having consulted Camillo Cardinal Laurenti, prefect of the Sacred Congregation of the Rites, by our own authority, and with certain knowledge and full consent, in virtue of our fullness of apostolic authority, by this letter we declare and establish Saint John Baptiste Vianney, confessor, who was so outstanding and apostolic a man, as pastor of the town of Ars, as heavenly patron of all parish priests, or those having the care of souls throughout the whole world, given at Rome by the Holy Father under the Fisherman's Ring, this 23rd day of April, 1929, in the 8th year of our pontificate. P. Cardinal Gaspari, Secretary of State. Words of Pope Pius XI. If, however, your work is to be blessed by God and produce abundant fruit, it must be rooted in the holiness of life. Sanctity, as we said above, is the chief and most important endowment of the Catholic priest. Without it, other gifts will not go far. With it, even supposing other gifts be meager, the priest can work marvels. We have the example of Saint Joseph of Cupertino, and in times nearer to our own, of the humble Curé d'Ars, Saint John Mary Vianney, of whom we have already spoken, whom we have willed to set up before all parish priests as their model and heavenly patron. From Encyclical Ad Catholici Sacerdoti on the Catholic priesthood, given at Rome at St. Peter's, December the 20th, 1935. The purpose of this biography: to give to English readers a concise biography of the Curé of Ars, to present as many facts and as few generalities as possible concerning this saintly priest, to assemble the dates of all the important events in the life of Saint Jean-Marie, to weave into this biography a number of well-known, beautiful quotations of the Curé of Ars, to give in one complete chapter an overall picture of each major undertaking of Father Vianney, to diffuse among the laity a wider knowledge of the patron saint of parish priests, to offer priests, seminarians, and others the wonderful events of a life that will inspire them with zeal for perfection, to introduce 5 inspiring prints of Monsieur Cabuchet's famous statue of Saint Jean-Marie, found in the chapel of the heart of the Curé of Ars, and reproduced with the express permission of the present Curé of Ars, who preserves all rights to these pictures. The photography is the work of Monsieur Lecuyer et Fils, Lyon, France. Here's a picture. And the caption says, "You have shown me the way to Ars. I will show you the way to heaven," the Curé of Ars told young Antoine Givre in February 1818, when the boy gave him directions how to get to Ars. Young Givre was the first parishioner St. John Vianney met as he approached the town. The picture above is of a monument on the spot where the meeting took place. Chapter 1. Birth. The first saint to come to the Vianney home was St. Joseph Benedict Labre. In July 1770, having just forsaken the life of a Trappist to embrace the spirit of a Trappist, as a wandering mendicant, he had come in holy poverty to beg a night's lodging with the Vianneys. Under his arm, he had a breviary, a gospel book, and the Imitation of Christ. He also had Our Lady's Rosary. He was welcomed with the warmest charity and was given a bowl of steaming soup, together with a farmer's supper and the friendship of the whole family. During the evening, one of the Vianney boys, Matthew, watched this meek and humble guest tell and retell his rosary until after family prayers, when he was shown his thick bed of straw over the bakery. St. Joseph Benedict wrote but little, but the Vianney charity so tenderly moved his heart that he later wrote the family a treasured thank you note. Little did the good saint realize that he had been selected as a kind of precursor for the coming of the saint of this story. The second saint to come to the Vianney home was the saint of this story, Jean-Marie. He was the son of a young Matthew Vianney who had grown up and married Marie Beluse. John Marie was born about midnight on May the 8th, 1786, in the family home at Dardilly, France, and was baptized almost immediately. Matthew and Marie Vianney had a family of 6 children, each of whom was dedicated to our Blessed Mother while their mother was still carrying them beneath her heart. Catherine, who died shortly after her marriage, Jean-Marie, who died at the age of 5, Francis, who inherited the family home, Jean-Marie, who became our beloved Curé of Ars, Marguerite, who died in 1877 at the age of 91, and Cadet, who joined the army and never returned. Dardilly is so small a village that it is hardly found on the map. Perhaps in the days of the Vianney family it had 1,000 souls. Some 5 miles to the southeast was the great city of Lyon. Around the village were farmlands where Matthew Vianney worked, where his sheep and cows grazed, and where a living was made for the family. Dardilly was one of those quiet little Catholic villages of France where the Angelus bell rang, and where people were poor, and where nothing grew as abundantly as the peace in their simple hearts. While peace blessed the village of Dardilly, the French Revolution rocked the city of Paris. 1789 marked the fall of the Bastille, the symbol of tyranny. 1791 saw the formulation of the civil constitution of the clergy. 1793 inaugurated the infamous Reign of Terror. But the revolution did not stop at Paris. Its rumblings reverberated in almost every cranny and nook of France, even to Lyon, where the guillotine kept sending souls to eternity without interruption. A price was on the head of every priest. Church bells were silenced, and wayside shrines were toppled over in the grass. Nevertheless, in Dardilly, 7-year-old John Marie day by day drove the donkey, the cows, and the sheep down into the valley to graze, taking with him his rosary and his small wooden statue of Our Lady. Along the stream there was an old willow tree with a hollow trunk. It was a natural altar. There John Marie placed his Blessed Mother and adorned her with moss, flowers, and leaves, and then knelt for his prayers and his rosaries. Maybe the churches were closed, but surely soldiers would never find his shrine. If other children came along, he would tie 2 sticks together into a cross and have a procession. A few hymns would be sung, always a rosary, and then a sermon, a short one because his congregation would sometimes get restless. But of all this, the leaders of the revolution never knew. To strike at the very source of such religious fervor, the radicals of the revolution had decreed strong measures against priests. For those who dared to harbor a priest, deportation was the punishment. Matthew Vianney harbored enough priests to have a deportation to the moon. At times, Holy Mass was celebrated in his home. At other times, young John Marie and the family would set out at night in great silence for some barn in the neighborhood where Holy Mass would be offered by a hunted priest. There, in the darkness and the bareness of a barn, would be found a candle, a plain table, and the necessities for the holy sacrifice. The mystery of everything, the whispers, the sobs, the breathing, and the sighs, so moved the boy that his soul was no doubt made most receptive to the vocational whisperings of the Holy Spirit. During those days, he experienced the fear, the mystery, and the faith of the catacombs. In his memory, the days of the terror were ever strong. Little did the French revolutionaries dream that they would forge in the fire of their hate, on the anvil of their persecution, a saint who would bring back to France the very God they had vowed to destroy.